Over the summer, I got a job as a night watchman at Walmart. At the time, I was desperate for some money and didn't care that the store was in the roughest part of town. The incident occurred about 3 weeks into working there. Dave, my coworker, and I were tending to our usual security duties. The night was long and tiresome, but we both clocked out around 6 in the morning the next day. As I walked through the parking lot to my car, I noticed a note under my windshield wiper. I ignored it as I thought it was just another complaint about my parking and stuffed it into the glove box. From there, I drove over to my ex-wife's house to pick up my 10-year-old daughter, Molly. After returning home, I went to sleep and she watched some TV. Later that day, I received a call from the usual babysitter I hired to watch my daughter while I work, calling to cancel as she was not feeling well. Furious and out of options, I asked Molly if she would be okay sleeping at home alone. She responded with an enthusiastic yes, and I made the tough decision to let her stay alone that night. I told her I would call often to check on her. Reluctantly, I went to work after ensuring all the doors and windows were locked. I called Molly around midnight to check on her. Doing fine and watching epic fails on TV, Molly said she was getting tired and was going to go to sleep. I told her goodnight and went back to work. Around 3 in the morning, I thought about checking on her again, but didn't like the thought of waking her up. So I decided not to call and let her sleep. Once my shift ended, I raced home to check on Molly. Upon arriving at my house, I found the front door unlocked. My heart sank and froze with terror. I burst through the door and ran to my daughter's room. I woke her up and asked her if she had unlocked the door last night. She responded with an innocent, "No, Papa, I didn't open the door last night. I thought you opened it when you came home around 3 to check on me. You stood in the door like usual and asked me if I was doing okay." Terrorized, I calmly told her, "Honey, I didn't come home last night to check on you." She looked at me and began to cry. Suddenly, a loud, evil laugh from my daughter's closet pierced my ears. The voice said, "Have a good night, sweetheart. I'm always watching you, waiting for my moment." I ran in my closet ready to kill the man who had invaded my home and targeted my daughter. I threw open the doors, only to find a small raggedy teddy bear covered in stains sitting on the floor of the closet. Upon later inspection, I found a camera, microphone, speaker, printed pictures of my daughter, and a note stuffed up in the teddy bear. Absolutely beside myself, I read the note first. On the paper, scribbled in red pen, was the sentence, "Look in your glove box." I went to my car and grabbed all the papers and manuals and sped back inside the house. After shifting through most of the pile, I came upon the note that was on my windshield. Carefully, I unfolded the thin paper with trembling hands, afraid of what I might find. It was a receipt from Best Buy for one microphone, camera, speaker, and for the developed photos. Once again, in smeared red ink, scribbled on the receipt with the words, "Never regret anything that made you smile," along with a set of coordinates that led straight to our house. About 2 weeks later, I quit working at Best Buy and sold my house in hopes of protecting my daughter. I had never forgotten about this incident and felt the need to write about it, as recently I've heard strange sounds around the house at night when my daughter is over. I can only hope and pray it is not the man that stalked me and Molly before, and instead just a wild animal or stray dog. I worked as a security guard for the overnight shift at Best Buy. My normal duties would consist of making rounds around the store and monitoring the surveillance cameras. I had a coworker. His name was Jack. We would walk around together, making jokes to avoid the uneasy feeling of being alone. Around 2 a.m., Jack was going to get his lunch from his car, so I gave him my keys and asked him to get mine as well. Jack took off, and I continued to make my rounds alone. Looking down the aisles, I noticed a white object sticking out around a shelf about head height. I started walking down the aisle, trying to figure out what it was, when the object moved. Realizing it was a person, I radioed to Jack while running down the aisle. Looking up and down the rows at the end of the aisle, I spotted the object again about 5 aisles down. I could get a better look this time. The face was pale with wrinkles and thin gray hair. In fear, I called out trying to sound frightening, hoping they would come out peacefully. The face disappeared behind the shelf. I ran over, looking down the aisle, only to find a severed head lying on the floor. Shaking, I slowly walked down the aisle, where I was hit with an awful odor. I followed the scent to the back shelf, where there was a out-of-place tote. Looking into the tote, I stared at a headless body soaking in blood. I ran out of the store to Jack's car as fast as possible. I started puking after I made it out of the store. Jack called the police, and within minutes, there were multiple police officers searching the store. Thinking back, I realized that someone must have been carrying that severed head around the store, stalking me. When I was 11, my parents let me stay home alone for the first time. I was so excited after asking them for weeks. They also said I could invite my friend Carter over. Being the thrilled 11-year-old I was, I started to set up for the night. I got my flashlight and made a fort with the couch cushions. Around 8 that evening, Carter showed up, then my parents left. They had instructed me on every possible problem I could encounter and locked all the doors and windows. Me and Carter went up the stairs to my bedroom, where I had my beanbag chairs and TV. We ate popcorn while watching a Ghostbusters movie. We were really into ghost catching and had some fake paranormal equipment toys. Carter started to get bored and decided to go down to the living room where our fort was. We had our flashlights and toy PKE meter in hand. If you're not sure what a PKE meter is, it's a Ghostbusters toy used to find ghosts. We started by turning all the lights off and walking around with our flashlights. We scanned each room one by one, hoping to find some paranormal activity. While we were going through the closet, I noticed the basement door was open. I asked Carter if he had opened it. He replied with a calm no. I got really freaked out and told Carter to go shut the door. He shrugged and walked over to the door when he looked down into the dark basement. He froze. I walked over terrified of what I could find when I saw a creepy old man wearing a Santa costume staring at us on the bottom step. Slamming the basement door, I ran out of my house to my neighbors with Carter. We told them what we saw, and they called the police. When the police came, they searched the house. After about 10 minutes, they came back with the old man. He had an awful smell with his stained costume. Thinking back, I realize how lucky I am to be alive.